Good morning, everybody, and welcome to That Game Place. I have no idea if we are on the screen or not because that intro was glitching out hard for me.
Oh, sorry. No, we're here. We're here.
Yeah. Hi, I'm Jonas J. Campbell. Over there to your left of me is Culture Casino. Down below is Nolan Thunder. Then the other corner is Loki, Stone Cold Loki. I thought we had a bunch of names on the screen, but they're not there. Very strange. Very strange indeed. Hey, Culture,
I have no name. I have no identity.
Can you fix
I'm
that
the
for
man
me?
with no name.
Fix what?
Yeah, there it is. Guys, we have got a Nintendo Switch 2 to talk about. This has been crazy. This has been absolutely insane. This might be the most sloppy announcement of a video game console I have ever heard of. And I bought a 3DS day one. So, I mean, Nintendo has screwed up launches in the past.
Are you or do you just mean Nintendo launches? Because are we including the PS3 in there?
And the Xbox One. That was horrible.
Yeah,
that's number one.
Yeah, that's true. Xbox One, though. Well, for those of you without internet connectivity, see, that one was very straightforward, and then Sony came in with a repudiation right after that. Was the Xbox One where Sony came in right after with like a PowerPoint slide that made Xbox look like a bunch of idiots? They're like,
yes,
well,
I remember
we've got backwards compatibility
and
everything you hate about the Xbox. We're not going to have that. And then everybody just cheered.
Do you guys remember the 10-second video PlayStation put on YouTube where it's like, how to share your games on the PlayStation 4? And it's like a slide, like step 1. Here you go, buddy. And that's the end of the video.
It was good.
And I want to say good morning to everybody who's joining us at this unusual time. Butterbiscuit asking, why are we streaming so early? Well, we're trying something out here. I don't know.
Yeah.
No,
we're trying biscuits with butter.
That's true. That's true. It's good. It's good in the morning. Seems like a natural breakfast food.
Yep. And Juliet says, good afternoon, TGP and chat. I think Juliet is over there in the UK, which y'all will be on a completely different pre-order schedule than the United States. Sounds like Nolan Thunder's out in the chat.
Get rid of him. Ban him.
Ban them.
Yeah. Jill Powers, the River Daughter. Good to see you. Tom
Jill.
F, my good friend. Scott Shook. We are shook. Carl Singh.
Hey,
I'm gonna say Kugut, Ninja Pat. Yeah, let's see if I missed anybody in here. Mark Fields, good to see you, buddy.
Mark.
Hey, look, there's Davina.
And
here we go. Here's a contrarian take from Contra Mortem. It's okay. I appreciate the take, though. I probably won't be buying anything for a while until I've got a lot saved and a job that will keep me around for years, because making minimum wage doesn't cut it.
Yeah.
A phone and a laptop is more important for me, but But since I move so much, I'm always close to being homeless. A laptop is typically what I got with. That's the rub here with the Nintendo Switch pricing. It's a bit high.
Ooh.
Did you see their statement about? I've got a video coming about that later today, where they said, "Hey, you know what? If you can't afford it, well, you can always get the Switch 1."
Yeah, that's
Xbox said the same thing in the past. If you remember, when they had the used game controversy, I don't remember. It wasn't the CEO, I think, but he said basically along the lines of, "Well, if you want a system that you want to be able to share your games on, we have a platform for that. It's called the Xbox 360."
Yep.
And never in my life did I ever see Nintendo that I think that Nintendo would stoop to that level. Like, this is sickening to me.
Well, I'm gonna defend Nintendo just a little bit. I think the combination of the 3DS and the Wii U into the Switch made them rethink the way that they think about these consoles. I think that these are like elevated handhelds, as opposed to the other way around, where they're thinking about it as a home console that happens to go mobile. I think they're thinking of themselves as a mobile company that happens to have a dock. And well, with the Switch 2, that dock actually does something now, as opposed to just putting it on the TV. So when they didn't stop making the Game Boy, when they first started making the 2DS, and they didn't stop making, and I call it the 2DS retroactively, even though it's just the Nintendo DS, and the 2DS came up later because Nintendo cannot get out of their own way when it comes to naming. Like naming the fourth Xbox console, the Xbox One. Like, why do you guys do this? Do you just hate Google search? Do you hate good naming?
It's confusing, and it's actually the third one. That's how confusing it is.
That's right. Yeah. The Xbox, which the first Xbox is the Xbox. The second Xbox is the Xbox 360. And then the third one is the Xbox One. Then, of course, there was the Xbox One S, which then makes it even more confusing when you have an Xbox Series X and an Xbox Series S. They hate their customers with the naming. I don't understand.
Well,
it's all marketing.
Yeah, but it's also why they're getting out of the Xbox business. So there's that.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna believe it when I see it. And I told Culture about this, and a little bit of insanity happened in my life. Someone that I came across was selling a PlayStation 5 Pro, and I bought it for $300 cash.
What?
Yeah.
Goodbye.
I'm like, what in the world are you doing, buddy? What's apparently I checked out his Facebook profile. I was like, okay, is this guy a thief? And he's just trying to unload stolen goods. What's wrong with this guy? He's apparently a night shift manager, and he never has any time to play. So he gave me a $450 discount on a PlayStation 5 Pro. Party wanted to say, just go into a GameStop. They'll give you more than $300 for it. But
they probably give them like $2. But I'm glad that worked out for you, because I once tried to get. Do you guys know like the special edition Game Boy Advance, like the Target variant? It's a red Game Boy Advance, has the Target logo. I tried to buy that for like $30-$40 once on Facebook Marketplace. Dude never sent it to me.
Dude, I'm gonna have to look. I've got a Game Boy Advance that has a Target logo on it, but is it kind of a light red?
Yeah, it's a light red. That one is very rare if you have one, Jonas.
Hold on just a second. I'm gonna mute for a second and be right back. 1 second.
Well, I'm going to carry on the conversation from there. When it comes to price on the Nintendo Switch, my biggest disappointment was that they were downgrading the screen technology and going back to just an LCD rather than an OLED. And I'm thinking you're increasing the price and giving a lower quality viewing experience that's capable of 4K, but that's on your television, not on the screen. So when you think about it, if you don't have the dock, you don't have the up-jumped, 4K ability anymore.
And 1080p is not bad for a handheld. So the handheld will be in 1080p mode on the Switch too.
Yeah,
that's a little better than the Steam Deck and other handhelds. But yeah, you're not getting 4K unless you jack it into the dock.
Yeah, and that's the other problem. So when I start to look at it, I'm like, well, the Steam Deck is more powerful. You have access to more games. You aren't going to get, obviously, unless you emulate, which you can. I believe I've seen some hacks that allow you to run an emulator.
On the Steam Deck, it's as easy as loading up Retrobat. There's a couple of others.
Right.
I used Baculi.
Right.
You just load that memory card in. You hold two buttons down as it launches.
Right.
It boots up into the card, and you're immediately in your emulator. It is that easy.
Yeah. So it's not even as difficult as sideloading a game. It's like very straightforward, and you can immediately start playing. Well, maybe even the new, Mario Kart. So when I start looking at it and I look at the price comparisons, it's like, okay, well, the Steam Deck's $350. You're on the same LCD screen roughly. Not exactly the same. It's not quite as good, but it's good enough if you're talking about a handheld. And you just have more at your fingertips, and that's the problem that I'm struggling with. It doesn't make a lot of sense, Loki. I don't know, Nolan. Do you guys think that as compared to a more powerful Steam Deck, the Nintendo Switch 2 is a sufficient upgrade? Despite the screen
no,
downgrade?
not an upgrade. because I think the Steam Deck currently has a lot more going for it. Honestly, I even say this might be a hot take. I think the Switch 1 has more going for it right now because of the world around it. Now, in the long term, if you don't mind me bouncing back to the PS3 for a second.
Yeah.
Here, that was a system that when that thing initially came out, that thing was an absolute disaster. Part of what made PS1 and PS2 so good was that they were cutting edge and they had a ton of games. You had a cutting edge system that was too powerful, that it was for HD TVs that a lot of people didn't have to see that upgrade Blu-ray player when people were happy with their DVDs. And it was kind of, it just wasn't what it needed to be at the start. Now, they rebounded later in that generation, actually outselling the 360. And a lot of people actually don't know that. But it's one of those systems you look back on now, and they go for some pretty good money because people actually love the PS3, and it had a bright future ahead of it because of how much power they put into it. I could see that happening.
The PS2 or the PS3 Sorry,
a PS3. PS3.
Okay.
PS3 also had issues though with the architecture and how they had to make the games because they couldn't. It wasn't easy as the other systems at the time.
It was
to incorporate those games.
Yes, it was a very rocky start. But, as time went on, when people were able to upgrade, or got on the secondhand market and all that, people got a lot more fond of it. And I feel like with the Switch 2 right now, if I'm a consumer, I'm a lot more gravitating towards the Switch 1 because the reality is, we've talked about this with many other companies across various different spots of the website here, is we have to look at the reality of where the economy is right now. There's a reason everyone's talking about these tariffs in regard to the Switch 2 and all this, yada, 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 because money isn't plentiful right now. And I don't think that they need to stay with the Switch 1 forever because I think that's ridiculous because the reality is a lot of these games, the late stage games, we're chugging on the Switch 1. This is a system that's been around for a very long time, almost in about 2 years here, we're celebrating the 10 years of the Switch 1. And by the time we get to that point, I think we will still have that system available by Nintendo on the market. I just kind of wish Nintendo had done a few more things to count in affordability because I feel like when the Switch 1 was announced, they were trying to do everything they could to be like, hey, this is going to be very convenient to have in your lifestyle. There's going to be a lot of great stuff coming because we're Nintendo and we already have that brand. Here, I watched the presentation and all that and seeing all the announcements come through the news. And I'm grateful that I'm a gamer or someone who follows this media because some of this stuff is just so complicated. Like, what's the Switch 2 version of a game? Apparently, some games are not going to be the same price. Oh, wait, no, they are. There's a lot of confusion going on right now.
Yeah.
And at a time where people are already trying to scrape enough money to get this thing, I feel like this is kind of a botched launch, if that makes sense. And I really hope they rebound.
Well, I don't know. I get the gut feeling on that one. And with that, we should get into our first official topic, which is the pricing on this thing.
Oh, yeah.
Here. So first of all, it is $450, which I'm going to say that I called that one. I was having arguments with people about why it was not going to be $400 because the OLED model sells for $350. It's been selling for $350 for a while now. So you have a situation where you have a $200 Switch Switch Lite, $300 for a regular Nintendo Switch, which is just another thing that we're going to have to say the Switch 1. I hate renaming old consoles because of the next one that comes out. So there was no way in my mind that they were going to charge $50 more for the Switch 2 if there was any kind of hardware upgrade. Because inflation would mean that they probably should be selling the OLED model at $400 just on its own if they adjusted for inflation, which Nintendo doesn't do. And Nintendo is one of the few companies out there that actually sells their systems for a profit. They've been doing that since the GameCube days. That was not something that was common in the past. The systems were a loss leader because they knew that they were going to get you on software. It was much easier to make money on software than it was on the hardware. So the GameCube, I don't know if they made a profit on that one necessarily, but by the time they got to the Wii, the Wii was essentially an upgraded GameCube. So they had the manufacturing processes down pat.
And technology in prices go down quarterly. As far as the hardware and everything else. So production costs come down.
In the late 80s, early 90s, Nintendo got hit with price fixing. They were telling the stores what they had to sell their consoles for. And when they got slapped with that, they stopped doing that. That changed some things. It wasn't just their systems, it was their games too.
Yep.
So
did you see how they got out? What if it's the same case I'm thinking of, the Nintendo settled by offering a discount coupon.
Yep.
Or basically liquidating their stock. I think that's a Howard Lincoln thing. Howard Lincoln was the head of Nintendo of America for a very long time.
He was cool.
Oh man, he's amazing. Absolutely amazing. He's famously the one who in the Donkey Kong case, when Universal sued Nintendo over the use of the King Kong likeness with Donkey Kong, Howard Lincoln was the one who found the case where Universal argued in court that King Kong was public domain, therefore they didn't have to pay the rights to use it. So they just said, hey, you have argued in court that no one has to pay for the use of King Kong. So why are you coming after us for Donkey Kong? That guy ended up being, of course, eventually the head of Nintendo of America and legend, which also is probably part of why Nintendo is so litigious to this day. It's kind of set a culture of we will sue you in the pressure. It pairs well with Japan. So looking at this, the comment that we have on screen, can't afford a Nintendo Switch 2? Buy a Switch 1, Nintendo says. I get it. Gosh. This is the kind of advice that you would tell someone who is angry at you, who doesn't want to buy your system. This is fine advice coming from a friend, but it's really tone deaf coming from Bowser.
You have phones, don't you?
Yeah, exactly. Well, except in this case, the phones were selling a game nobody wanted anyways.
That's true.
Regardless, it's Mario Kart World and Donkey Kong Bonanza and Elden Ring Tarnished Edition.
Yeah, look, and when I look at that, Jonas, it's irritating for me, as it was for most gamers, because it's more than a little bit tone deaf. And you know what? They got what they deserved. They got absolutely what they deserved. I'm afraid Nintendo just made a lot of fans not fans anymore. And I think that, you know, whether or not you believe it or not, I don't think it's even just the pricing of the console, Jonas. I think it's also the pricing of the games. I think a lot of people are concerned that every game from now on is going to be $80 minimum and only going to go up to $100 with the release of GTA 6, because that's what the developers want. They can't justify 18,000 people working for them.
Nintendo just put out a statement saying we're going to do variable pricing on games depending on how much work we put into them, how much time goes into it, how much resources. We're going to have variable pricing. And when I heard that, I was like, wow, okay, there's a lot of things you reused for Mario Kart. So wouldn't that mean it would be cheaper? I guess.
And don't even get me started on some of the slop they put up during the event we were watching, you know?
Speaking of variable pricing, I'm going to get rid of this Washington Post paywalled article. So that's a fair point. But on that, did you guys tune into the Treehouse Live and see the live chat?
Oh, no. You mean where it's going lower the price, lower or drop the price or whatever that was in there the whole time?
Over and over again, drop the price. I've never seen a Treehouse Live go that. I mean, there's always some feature that everyone hates in a Nintendo game, and maybe they'll end up loving it later, because Nintendo is a weird company. They will do what they want to do, which is one of the reasons why they're so great at making video games, is they will approach it from a completely insane viewpoint. I don't know. I'm not trying to be the heel here, but I don't think $80 for a Mario Kart game is that insane. I think that is a game that if it's as good as Mario Kart 8, then that $80 is a good investment.
And they did say that
over a
like
10-year.
They did say that they were talking about replay value and how much you're going to get out of your game, and they figured that Mario Kart is one of those games you'll be playing the entire lifespan of the Switch lifespan, so it's worth it. You're getting an $80 game, and if you get it with this system, it's $50, right? They're taking $30 off because you're getting it with this system. So
Yeah, which
There's
makes the console plus game $500. Look, I don't even mind that. That's to me, the price is the price. You know, sell your thing what you think your thing is worth, right? But like a car, it's going to sit on the lot, and then you're going to have to bring the price down eventually because now you have almost a used car at some point.
I don't know.
Was the car analogy intentional?
I'm just saying. Yeah, kind of. Yeah, it's just it. Look, you're not going to have as big a market as you would have had you kept the price similar because there are a lot of downgrades on the console as well. I mean, you know, yes, you get a faster refresh rate, but you get a lower quality screen. You know, you're back down to an LCD rather than an OLED. And you know, you were paying the whole reason that we got a mid-generation console was for the OLED screen.
I'll also point out Nintendo is very good at taking old hardware and presenting it in a fun way. I mean, the Game Boy, the original Game Boy, was all old technology, and that was
I don't mind.
possibly the most revolutionary system of all time. I mean, that thing is just pure joy. I had to go check my stock of Game Boys just a second ago. By the way, I do not have the Target exclusive. I have 2 Walmart exclusives, which are purple. And,
do you have the light? Do you have the night light for when it didn't have the backlight? I had the night light.
I don't have any of those, but I did find I have the gold edition Nintendo camera. That
I thought you were about to say the gold edition Game Boy Advance, and that's like one of the rarest things in the world. I was about to have a heart attack.
Yeah. I think that Nintendo, it's always selling the software. It
is. You're 100% right, but you're just now going to pay more for the software. Well, we feel that this game, despite the fact that, you know, you rejected it widely on 2 previous platforms, we're going to put it on this one with these upgrades. So enjoy old game with upgrades.
If I play Cyberpunk 2077, I'm not gonna play it on a Switch.
Yeah,
if I dare to ever go near Star Wars Outlaws, which I don't because that's Jonas's job, then I'm not gonna play it on a Switch. I've got a beast of a machine PC over there. That's what's gonna run the majority of my games. So why do I need a Nintendo? I need a Nintendo for their IP, which means they need to have a good library that I can only get on the Switch too, which at the moment they don't have.
Right. Well, here's the point right here. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, that was a Wii U game that now is the best-selling title on the Switch.
That's because they didn't release a Mario Kart on the Switch is the problem.
Which why would they when this is the best-selling title? They would be eating their own take here. Breath of the Wild, that's another Wii U game, sold 30 million copies. Animal Crossing, that was kind of a 2020 fluke. I mean, it's a great game.
Wait a minute. Breath of the Wild is a Wii U title?
Yes, absolutely. That was a game designed and originally came out. I have it on the Wii U as well. It plays great on the Wii U.
It's like how Twilight Princess is a GameCube game. It just got ported.
At the same time?
Yeah, absolutely. I've beaten it on Wii U. I've beaten it on Switch. I haven't gotten all 120 Korok or all 120 shrines and all the Korok seeds that are like there are 900 of those on the Wii U version. I'm not that much of a masochist.
Okay. Well, wait a minute. So did it come out on both systems at the same time?
Pretty much. Yes. If not, I mean, here I'll click the article.
I'm just curious.
Let's see. Nintendo Switch and Wii U on. Well, they're not going to get the date of the release of Breath of the Wild wrong.
Culture like goes back and it'll infect me. Wikipedia.
And then, it's like trying to look up those old obscure Atari games on Wikipedia. It's like they don't know the actual release date, so they're like somewhere in quarter 4, 1982.
Yeah, it's just proof that Atari was a mess. That whole era was an absolute mess, and then Nintendo came and imposed
brand new.
Order. Yeah. So then the discussion becomes the tariffs, which is fascinating. Culture and I were having a little discussion about the tariffs this morning. As of the recording of this video, the tariffs are at 104% on China.
In China.
Yeah. And I forget how much China has been charging the United States, but it's substantial. So
it was 34%.
Oh, okay. And one thing that was done to avoid Chinese tariffs by Nintendo, they said, and this is an old article, this is 2019. Nintendo says it will shift part of its Switch gaming console production out of China. Okay, so they moved from China to Vietnam in order to avoid some of these tariffs. Vietnam just got hit with massive tariffs as well. So
and then they're trying to get a zero tariffs deal with the U.S., which that sounds like was agreed to a few days ago. But
yeah,
regardless, I'm going to say it this way: everybody moved out of China starting in 2019.
Right. And I'll also add, Nintendo is still in the process, and Foxconn, which I think Foxconn is a Chinese company, but I'm not
they
sure.
Are, and they are moving out.
Manufacturing is in China.
Yeah, but they're moving out of China, and many of their factories in China have closed. Sorry, the Chinese thing has been fascinating to me because I've been watching their economy crash for 6 years now.
Yeah. So this was originally the first, and just so you know how much research I ended up putting into this, Vietnam Investment Review ended up on my research docket. So guys, I've been trying very hard to find out what's going on with the Switch for you guys. And that being said, I still don't know everything that's going on with the Nintendo Switch at this point, the Switch 2, because everything is nuts. I was in direct contact with Nintendo support, and I was correcting them on some things here.
Yeah,
so I just have to say that Nintendo has been very sloppy in how they did this.
Oh, I'm sure.
That's
one
of the worst type of culture.
No, please.
Oh, I just want to say that's one of the worst things I feel like you can do as a company outside of, insulting your consumer base, is when you go to reach out to support and they're giving you completely different answers. That shows a lot of incompetence at the top to me. And this comes from someone who's thinks Nintendo is one of the smarter video game companies out there. You need to have basically a paper you have going, or an email going out to your employees that said, this is what we're doing. There's going to be human error. There's going to be some gray area with everything in life, but you need to have, okay, these are the facts, these are what we're telling people, these are what we're not telling people. And it just seems like they were horribly unprepared for this kind of backlash, which makes me wonder if it was a $70 upgrade, a gradual $10 upshift, if we'd be seeing the same kind of backlash or not. But continue, guys.
Right. Well, and the point there is especially when we talk about what the game cartridge situation is, and the Nintendo Switch 2 editions and all of that, there's a lot to be discussed there, and how strange all of that is. A lot of it, I think, is going to be solved before the 9th of June, but still, it's kind of crazy. And there are people, and this hacks me off. There was a content creator who was coming out to supposedly debunk rumors, but what he's doing, and forgive me, I'm going to call out somebody, but I'm not going to say their name, is saying that everyone who says video games are costing $90 on the Switch is a liar and spreading misinformation. No, those games cost $90. They just might not cost $90 in the US. And if they're, as long as they're explaining that information in there, they're not clickbaiting, they're not lying, they're providing full information. Or the people who are saying, well, no, when the Nintendo Switch 2 edition says this, it does not say, this about the cartridge or that about the cartridge. And everyone who disagrees with me is a liar. No, that's not how we play this. We provide more information. We don't start calling people liars for disagreeing on interpretations of the same information. You show your work, and then everyone can have a discussion. You don't start calling people liars because they disagree with how the information distills into the end of it. Anyways, sorry. That's me being frustrated with the discourse about the Switch Online, because, guys, we're trying our best out here, trying to get news out. Anyways, forgive the.
Well, Jonas just trying to figure out, me and you were going over, okay, what's backwards compatible? What can the Switch 2 connect with from the Switch 1? Just looking at that was 2 hours of digging, and the best answers we got were from AI that was well, we expect that you'll be able to use this with this and this with that and back and forth. They're not giving that information out. They're not just giving that information out.
Right.
Some of it's there, but going the other way, there's almost nothing. What is going to come out on the Switch 2 that can work with the Switch 1? What's already on the Switch that can work on the Switch 2? That's a giant headache trying to just figure that out.
Yeah. So this is the one specifically that Loki and I were both looking into at the same time. And I contacted Nintendo specifically about this one. And I'm still not confident that this headline right here is correct because of the conversation I ended up having with Nintendo Switch support. New Nintendo GameCube controller not compatible with Switch 2 games, just GameCube classics. Now that makes sense. That has been how they've treated. I forget which controller. I think it's the NES controllers that slide into the things on the side. They don't let them slide into the side anymore. Like they're just straight up. Like they'll be wireless or something like that. They don't do it the same way they did the NES controllers. But let's read this for just a second. It's come to the Nintendo community's attention that the new Nintendo GameCube controller set to launch with the Switch 2 is only usable, with the limited collection of classic GameCube titles via Nintendo Switch Online. A cool bonus during the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct was the announcement of GameCube integration for Switch Online. Nintendo's library of retro games is growing even more thanks to GameCube editions. Legendary properties including Pokemon Stadium and Super Mario Sunshine will make up the Nintendo Switch Online expansion pack. A line of official Nintendo GameCube controllers are coming too, featuring the new C button. But if you're looking to grab this super special controller, take heed of its limited capabilities. By the way, this is news to me based off of my conversation with Nintendo support. The classic Nintendo GameCube games are coming to Nintendo Switch 2 in an explainer of the new GameCube expansion features. We also get treated to a look at the new GameCube controller, but a small print message toward the end is easily missed. Okay, I guess I'm gonna cue that up here in the background, and we will do that one live. Sorry. I'll just flat out say my big questions with this when I set out to find out what was going on was looking at the compatibility list on Nintendo Switch controllers versus the Nintendo Switch 2. I'll just flat out tell you the Nintendo Switch 2 Pro controller does not work on the Nintendo Switch. The Nintendo Switch Pro controller works on both, and you will be missing the C button and the GL and GR buttons on the back of the Switch. So if I were practical, if I was a parent, I'd go for the Nintendo Switch Pro controller that can be used on either system. Because if you've got one friend who's the little rich kid who has the Nintendo Switch 2, you don't necessarily want to buy a Nintendo Switch 2 Pro controller so that you can play with the one kid. You would want to buy a Pro controller from the Switch 1 so he can play with all the kids.
Jonas, that's a great point. And I feel so good for those kids because now they don't have to grow up with the Mad Catz controllers anymore. They have options.
I hate those Mad Catz. Speaking of Mad Catz, welcome, Marvin the Movie Monster.
Meow.
Okay, so in my conversation with Nintendo, I got them to establish, Nintendo Switch 2 Pro controller will not work. However, when I asked them specifically about the Nintendo GameCube controller with the C button, I don't think they put GL and GR buttons on the back. They said, yes, it will work with the Nintendo Switch, but it will only function, it'll pair as if it's just a regular USB controller.
Oh, that's interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I feel like it's contradictory to what we're probably about to see if we take a look at this video right here. Let's take a look.
Please.
All right, just have to point out, possibly the best startup sound on a Nintendo system. Maybe.
Yes.
Maybe.
Easily.
I think it's right up there with the Roku opening.
Top tier of them all, though, is PlayStation 1. Just saying.
Yes.
Maybe.
Although
the
intro to
the Game Boy ones are pretty amazing.
I was going to say that
Xbox
the best
was pretty explosive.
I just want to say the best intro for a game company is Sega.
Yeah.
Yep.
True.
Yep.
Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack will be getting a new classic game library exclusive to Nintendo.
I also feel like that's kind of cheating because they use the Super Mario World coin sound on that. Okay.
No, that was
so
Sunshine.
We're looking for fine print here. Was that Sunshine? Nintendo Switch
they're
Online
trying to keep
classic
it the
game
theme.
libraries are being renamed to Nintendo Classics. Okay, that's fair.
Nintendo Switch 2, Nintendo GameCube.
How do they always get a voice from a guy that sounds like he's in puberty?
Redmond, that's all I have to say about that.
Originally released in 2002. Here are the titles that will be available at launch. A Legend of Zelda game that looks like a...
Okay, we're going to skip ahead a little bit because we've already seen this. Wind Waker, I'm glad it's coming. It's better on the Wii U.
Soul Calibur 2.
Soul Calibur with Link. Exciting. F-Zero GX, which is harder than you guys remember. Just going to point that out. Game chat
Closest
integration.
thing we'll get to an F-Zero on the Switch too.
And the one that I'm really excited about is over here, Chibi Robo. I haven't gotten to play that in so long. I'm kind of surprised that Super Mario Sunshine is coming, considering that it was in the 3D classics here. All right. So we're seeing available for Nintendo Switch 2 expansion pack members. All right. Still looking for more. Okay. Now they're actually talking about the controller, so we'll run it back.
And a dedicated controller designed after the original GameCube controller will also be released. It can connect wirelessly and also has a C button to quickly access game chat. The Nintendo GameCube.
So is it the fact? Oh, wow. It is up here and it's been added. This was only on the Nintendo UK channel because I was looking for fine print everywhere. The controller is only compatible with Nintendo GameCube, Nintendo Classics. Okay. Well, not buying that thing. I'm going with my PowerA wireless GameCube controller for yet another system.
So what would be the point of using it with the Switch then if it's only for the GameCube games? Because I thought the GameCube games were only on Switch too.
Well, you can't use it for any of the, even if you've got, let's say you've got Super Mario Sunshine on Super Mario 3D All-Stars, and you wanted to play Super Mario Sunshine on the Nintendo Switch, so you put that in your Nintendo Switch 2, and you put that cartridge in there, you can't use this GameCube controller in order to play Super Mario Sunshine in the upgraded version. You can only play it on the Nintendo Switch Online version.
Right, but isn't that only for Nintendo Switch 2? Because they told you that this controller could be used with Nintendo Switch, right?
Right, for USB. So I agree. So here's my theory is that Nintendo support is fumbling around in the dark doing the best they can, and they looked up a random GameCube controller and they were like, oh, well, here's the information on that. So they sent it back and they said, yeah, it'll work in this way. I think the Nintendo support people are wrong. I would be more likely to go with this, which has been checked by legal for Nintendo. Man, it is super tiny print. I don't even know if that is going to show up on the live stream. Yeah, it won't because it gets covered up here. Man, that is teeny tiny print. Nintendo, come on, man. There is no reason that all of those buttons can't just be usable on any other game. You even added extra buttons on. You added a ZL button to go next to the Z button. Why does Nintendo do this?
I wonder if they're not going to produce a lot of these, because if they're saying right here in the fine print that this is only compatible with the GameCube stuff they're putting on Switch, that's probably going to be only a certain size of the market. That's probably going to be more of those that were nostalgic for GameCube. I could be wrong with the young up-and-coming Nintendo fans, who see Luigi's Mansion or something covered by their favorite streamer on YouTube and they want to play the game themselves. That's a part of the fun of timeless classics. But if it's so short on compatibility, I don't see the company pouring in, eons and eons of production into these controllers if you only get like a minuscule amount of the overall system's lifespan. Like, this is concerning.
How many are going to know that, though, when they walk into their GameStop, their game floor, and they go, oh, look, there's the controller I used when I was a kid, and it says it will work on the Switch, too. And they get it, and they get it home, and they're like, why isn't this thing working? Why isn't it? I'm looking at the box, I'm looking at the instruction manual. Only works with GameCube, but I don't even have the GameCube. I don't even have the Game Plus library. I don't have none of that. And then they've got a controller that doesn't work for anything but something that they would have to pay extra for.
So this is a fancy collector's item that is mostly going to sit on the shelf, because I think the kind of person who would buy this is also the kind of person who probably still owns a GameCube. So the only other question I had on this controller that I could not get answered anywhere, and even the hands-on stuff people are forgetting, the analog triggers on a Nintendo GameCube function very differently than the current like redone GameCube controllers. I think there was like 256 different degrees of pressure that you could put on those triggers. They were like a gas pedal, and that is not there in the current remakes of this controller. So like the Power A wireless, which is the one that I love to use, and when I play Smash Brothers with the kids, I always end up going for that controller because it's perfect. When you say the word ergonomic, it is like the case study for ergonomic controllers. It's a work of art, this bizarre little controller that we made fun of back in the day. But it is not the same. And the only thing that might convince me here is if I knew that they were actually going to be releasing a lot of GameCube Nintendo classics, and it also had those analogs. And even then, I got the Wavebird back here, and I've got my Nintendo GameCube with the Game Boy player with the disc. I've put a little too much money into getting that Game Boy player disc. I'm just going to do that. Well, I don't see the reason for doing something like this. I mean, I'll play Chibi Robo, but I'll just play it with the wrong controller.
Not to mention, Jonas, they came out as far back as Wii U era. They had the connector that lets you plug in the GameCube controller to the Wii U, and later I believe it was still compatible with the Nintendo Switch, to where you had like a USB adapter to where you could use the OG controllers for the new system. I don't know if that'll work for Switch 2 or not.
It does. It does. I checked the compatibility list. It's on the things that will work because it's USB.
Perfect. Yeah. If I could just follow up to something Loki said, how much maybe better would it have been if instead, because I just think that could be just a horrible scenario. And the sad thing is, it's going to happen to people if this is the case. Wouldn't it be kind of nice if instead of, this normal classy Nintendo red box, instead they made like a little bit bigger, and they instead put a ton of art from some of your favorite games on it, and you really hit home that this is for GameCube stuff that you can play on Switch. Maybe even include like a little card that is the Nintendo Switch, membership program, so that way when you get it out of the box, you're like, oh, I this isn't gonna work for my games, but hey, I can still, put in the code because it's 2025, and I can still experience these games. I feel like this is
but they've done the opposite
going to happen.
But they've done the opposite. They said you can't even buy it unless you are registered and also have Nintendo Switch Online with expansion pack. And it's only going to be available through, even though they're advertising it to everybody else. So this is a deviation. I wanted to cover this anyways, and Loki just served right in. Anybody have anything they want to say about controller compatibility before we go back very briefly to the tariff situation?
I wish that the controllers worked on the consoles there.
Me too.
Swing and a miss for Nintendo.
I wish my controller was a controller.
Yeah.
All right. So in looking at all of this, and I just very, very briefly, Foxconn and Nintendo are gearing up. They're still building production in Vietnam. So their great plan to get out of China is still ongoing. Like this factory is not even going to be up and running until 2026.
Yeah, I just looked at the where the PCBs are being made. They're still in China. So.
Yeah. And looking, there's still ongoing stories about the Trump tariffs and all of this. And Nintendo has said, no, we didn't factor the tariffs into this, even though everyone watching them are like, oh, they're going to factor tariffs into it. Tariffs are going to affect the price. And then, of course, they said, oh, well, we're going to back off on pre-orders until this is all resolved. I think that's mature, by the way, to say that this is ongoing, to acknowledge that.
I thought that was just for the U.S. market.
Yes, at least for now. Now, an interesting feature of the Nintendo website, if you go over here and look, Joy-Con 2, left and right, blue and red, they're $50 a piece if you buy them separately, which they do sell them separately for some reason. If you look
they
down
break.
here, yeah, they do actually list the country of origin on a lot of different items. So it's interesting to see. For some reason, I think the Pro controllers are manufactured in China, or maybe it was Cambodia. But yeah, there's tariffs and things on some of those southeastern
Holiday
Chinese
in
regions.
Cambodia. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, from the dead Kennedys. Yeah.
No. I will say this. Nintendo did try with the console, controllers aside, and they did try to make a lot of things backwards compatible. And I haven't seen an effort like that since the PS3 Jumbo or Fat Boy or whatever you want to call it. So that's a big ups to them, but still, you know, I feel like maybe there's going to be less sales. I could be wrong. This could turn into a Wii U original release problem.
I think that's a reasonable assumption for now, but I don't think it's going to hurt them the same way it did, because you have so much that's going to be backwards compatible, and you've got games like Mario Kart 8 that, I mean, it's an ancient game. It's more than 10 years old. That is still going to be sitting there on the shelves. They're still going to be selling those bundles that have Mario Kart 8 on it. I don't know. This is if people still buy the Switch, Nintendo's good. If people are buying the Nintendo Switch 2 in this period where there's going to be a lot of scarcity, and Nintendo says there's not going to be scarcity, but they say that every launch. They say that there's not going to be scarcity every single time. Like amiibos are still like, I don't know if they're going to be on the shelf if you show up to the store.
I'm stuck. I have almost the collection that I want, but there are some that's like, oh yeah, try to find this. Yeah, thanks. I mean, I feel like that with every time I go around. I'm like, especially with anything tied to Link. I'm like on eBay looking at this amiibo that's like $250, and I'm like, what? No.
Yeah.
Well, you know, to your point about it's reminding you of the Wii U, I was thinking like, well, they have the momentum of the Switch 1 going into this, so it shouldn't be that bad. But then I think back, well, the Wii was the Wii, so that shouldn't have happened either. But I think the sole reason it will not get that bad is literally the name, because it's right there. Switch 2.
Dude.
I think people will upgrade just for the name. Wii U, the name was half the reason that console flopped.
It was not a good name.
It was a weird
it's
name.
the League. It's the ungentlemanly warfare name problem. You know.
Well, it's also the new Nintendo 3DS XL. It's like, okay, how there's way too many words in the name of that system. And none of them, and if you want to buy one used, just heaven help you on that one. We got some super chats here. Jay for $10. Modern Vintage Gamer did a video about backwards compatibility. He said that the Switch 2 does not have the hardware from Switch 1, so all Switch 1 games will be handled with emulation.
Yeah,
What?
it's
kind of.
It's one of the reasons why they went with the T239 micro die for the video card. So it's all tied to it's Tegra's. It's a Tegra. It's tied to the NVIDIA DLSS and all the other stuff that they have. So that chip's going to be working extra hard on this console.
And they've got like a modified 3050 NVIDIA 3050 in it. So it's got power.
Yeah. It's all micro dies of the same chips that are in the other cards. So yeah.
So this is, and we can skip around on topics. I was going to talk about pricing of games.
Oh, sorry.
But we can. No, it's okay. Jay's kind of called it here. So we're going to talk about this specifically. But let's get to Butter Biscuit for $5. If you guys happen to get a Switch 2, I hope you can get hours of Smash Melee streams. It's the best one in my opinion.
Yes.
Also, is there
Do you
still
think
a
they'll have
3 p.m. stream? I don't know. I think if they announced Melee, they would have taken away from everything else in their stream, because Melee is the best Super Smash Brothers game ever made. It is the pinnacle of the series. Everything else is struggling to get there. Brawl made me. I hated Brawl. What do you think? 4 Ultimate is the best? What? Go ahead, Nolan.
No, okay. It's Ultimate. I think it's the best one for the sheer level of content. Also, Brawl was a fantastic game. Just saying that out there too. But I do think Melee is the best crafted game. It was a beautiful mistake. I think all the extra details and the smaller scale of it helped to craft it into a great experience. But I feel like you just can't compete with Ultimate because, at least in Ultimate, you don't have a bunch of like 5 clone characters that are there instead of more recognizable characters. And I say this as someone who lives and dies by Melee as well, if that makes sense.
Which game had Solid Snake in it?
Brawl.
Ultimate.
Oh, that was my
Brawl.
favorite. This is the one with Solid Snake.
He's also in Ultimate. I'll point that out. And that's my favorite amiibo. I still haven't taken him out of the box. I'm the kind of person that I don't like having toys and collectibles in boxes for the most part, because I feel like these are meant to be loved, meant to be used. But I still haven't gotten Solid Snake out of the box. So it would be up to Culture if he wanted to do a 3 p.m. stream, but I don't think we're planning on doing a 3 p.m. today.
That's not the plan, unfortunately.
Yep.
Yeah.
So let's talk about what's not going to be compatible with the Switch 2 here. We've already talked about the fact that the controllers are not compatible.
Well, some controllers.
Okay, I got a StreamYard glitch error in the back, but we don't need to worry about that. So this is an interesting graphic that Nintendo put out there. This is the compatibility list for the Nintendo Switch versus the Nintendo Switch 2, and over 15,000 partner games that they've tested and 122 Nintendo games, which makes me think I need to go back and look at my list to see what I don't have, because apparently I'm missing a few.
Yeah, you don't have 15,000 games, Jonas?
No, not 15,000, 122. These are the ones that are important down here, right here, right there. This number right here, 122. I do not have 122. But looking at this list,
I mean, you're a completionist. I'd be more impressed if you had 15,000 other games.
There's so much garbage out there. What am I going to buy? Like Ninja Bread Man upgraded.
I mean, they did just re-release Big Rigs Over the Road Racing, right? So you got that one.
So many games that I don't have time to play. Looking at this, I was very curious. What is the compatibility issue? So as Jay referred to in the super chat, it's not quite emulation, but it's kind of emulation. The Nintendo Switch 2 has the same architecture but different mechanics. I'm not going to explain this well because I'm not a software or a hardware guy when it comes to the internals of a system. But there is something that is being referred to as a translation layer between a Nintendo Switch game and a Nintendo Switch 2 system. So it's doing some kind of on-the-fly translation of the game. So it's not emulation in the strictest sense. So it's not necessarily running an emulator, but it's kind of emulation anyways. Am I explaining that at all?
It's
correct,
close,
Loki?
Yeah, no. Basically, you've got the upgraded versions, which will be like Breath of the Wild, stuff like that. That should be native. From my understanding, those games that you get the update, you get an actual Switch 2 update, those will be native. The ones that aren't getting an upgrade, that's what they're going to use that translation matrix for. And that's what will be kind of half emulated, half running off of hardware. So.
That's going to be so, and we got to talk about the Nintendo Switch 2 editions, and that's coming right after this because it's part of this conversation, but it's also a little bit bizarre at the same time. So there are different kinds of compatibility that we're talking about here, and let's just get it out of the way. The game that is not compatible, it is one game. Can anybody guess what it is?
1-2 Switch.
Pikmin.
Nope.
Pikmin.
Nope.
Ring Fit Plus.
You guys are getting closer. Those are kind of compatible.
Nintendogs.
Oh man, why did they stop doing Nintendogs? It is Nintendo Labo Toy-Con 04, the VR kit. And that is literally 100% a hardware reason because the Nintendo Switch 2 is too big to fit inside of the VR headset. So despite the fact that they're going to be having upgraded visuals on Breath of the Wild, you're not going to be able to take advantage of it. So for those of you who are not familiar with how the VR kit works, I have one over here. I've tested it a few times. You're literally holding a little cardboard thing with plastic lenses on it, and you go into VR mode and slip the Switch into it, and you are seeing Link, or in the case of Odyssey, Mario, and then the world behind them is 3D. So it's not like you're in a virtual reality world. You're seeing a stereoscopic 3D of whatever you're looking at while holding the Switch to your face on this little cardboard VR kit. It's very Nintendo, I have to say that. It is also half the resolution at which it should be. Even though it's right against your face, they're obviously cutting the resolution in half in order to have that binocular view and translate it into 3D. It would be interesting if they came up with a VR kit for the Nintendo Switch 2, but that being said, I don't think they're doing Labo ever again. But it's Nintendo. They're weird. Maybe they will. I can understand why this is not there. It's kind of a tragedy because I think they might actually be able to get full resolution with the fact that the Nintendo Switch 2 has better graphics. So tragedy, but I get it. I get it.
The VR stuff's not a huge hot seller. I mean, Sony's gone all in for a new helmet with PS5, but it's not like those are selling like hotcakes. You see one every time you go into your local Target or Walmart or whatever, because they're just not flying off the shelves. Yeah, it's too expensive, and there's
too expensive, and it's yeah, it is like it. Look, as somebody who is a huge VR fan, own multiple VR systems, all I can say is I don't hardly use them anymore. Yep. I'll still maybe use Skyrim VR. I played Fallout 4 in VR on the Vive. But I mean, absent, the high quality headset and the high quality controllers, it's just not fun. And it's why nobody uses the kiosks in Vegas or, any of the shopping malls anymore to do the VR experience. Because for a lot of people, it messes your brain up. So you either get nauseous or a headache or any number of other things. Plus, prolonged usage is not recommended.
I had an instance where, go ahead.
I got the MetaQuest specifically for work related stuff because I wanted to work in a cool virtual office, that was in a space station overlooking the Earth, and it was it was giving me such a headache I couldn't do it.
I got it for Elite Dangerous. I got mine for Elite Dangerous, but I mean, when you've got your pedals, you've got rudders, you've got your stick, you've got your throttle, you've got a headset, that takes up a lot of space. So where does mine sit? It sits in a cabinet underneath my games over there. Yep. And that's where it lives. I don't even play Elite Dangerous anymore, so it doesn't come out anymore.
Before this room became my my library and my studio, it was the place where I did the VR. Yep. So I could walk around and have full and not, destroy things around me, which is the other problem with VR.
So I lucked into a conversation with somebody who was working with Oculus, and he wanted to test out average people on VR. And so he set it up and I forget the specific game. One was a wizard game, which I did not like at all. It was, you were sitting on a platform and, you had to do certain hand gestures. Really not what I wanted to do. But there was one where, and this was before Ready Player One became a movie, you were like in a trailer and there was a little floating robot getting you. It was basically a tutorial for VR, but I ended up talking to the little robot. It was very immersive. It was very fun. And I could see why it could be a problem if they let you work in a space like that, like a hyper reality. Like if I'm not going to do my taxes in VR. I might do some editing in VR if I'm in a space where I don't have a screen and I want a screen, but the use cases are really not there. That being said, let's get back to Nintendo if you guys don't mind. The games that are somewhat compatible, because the Joy-Cons will still work with the Nintendo Switch 2, the Joy-Con ones, which we're going to call them now. Ring Fit Adventure, 1-2 Switch, and Everybody 1-2 Switch. Game Builder Garage, which I have a feeling that they're transferring Game Builder Garage over because they're going to integrate Game Share into it. Nintendo Switch Sports, WarioWare Move It, and the other Nintendo Labo kits here. So these are all, when looking at all of these are Joy-Con size related issues or Joy-Con hardware related issues here. So this makes
what's even the point of buying a Switch 2 at this point, guys? If you can't play 1-2 Switch.
What 1-2 Switch is fun. I'll defend it. It's not a video game in the strictest sense. It's a fun party game, but it is really not a video game in the
I mean, if I can't play Wario Move or whatever the hell that was called, what am I dropping this money for?
By the way, I think Best Buy, not Best Boy, Best Boy worked on my last film. WarioWare Move It, I think, is like $30 or $35 at Best Buy right now. I don't think it's even the best of the WarioWare games on the Switch. But
oh gosh,
but here
is that what I look like at the gym? I wonder.
Let's see.
I do actually appreciate the transparency though here by Nintendo. Like they're actually explaining the individual reasons for each game, as you know they should be, because a competent company, you'd expect that. And you can have like the 360 where, you know, some of the games work, some of the games don't. And you go to a used game store and you're like, do half of the original Xbox games even work for my system? Where it seems like it's more of the niche games here that are kind of like something you'd expect to have some kind of issues going into the new hardware. Am I wrong on that?
Yeah. And speaking of hardware, I'll throw this on here. The Nintendo Switch 2 is not compatible with the original dock. That's a side issue, by the way. The original power adapter, they're saying that you can get some charge out of it, but it's not possible to run it in TV mode using that power adapter because it's just not powerful enough. The HDMI cable, I think technically works, but you're not going to get the graphical fidelity. And
It's
also
not a 4K. I don't think it's a 4K cable.
Yeah. Because all they have to do is 1080 and that thing is supposed to be doing it. I don't know. The cable thing, I think there's a lot of people who won't even understand the difference, right? Because they'll just be like, oh, well, it plugs here, it plugs that. That's the problem with HDMI. It's not a real problem. It's like a turning motion smoothing off on your parents' TV kind of problem. Like, they don't understand that the movie is not supposed to look that way. And then the other is the micro SD cards. The current micro SD card that you probably have in your Nintendo Switch right now is probably not going to work on the Nintendo Switch 2. I did a way too deep of a dive on the micro SD situation. The micro SD Extreme, any word other than Express is not going to work on a Nintendo Switch 2, except for displaying your screen captures and videos taken on a Nintendo Switch. So completely lame, but there we go. Oh, and for Nolan's sake, yes, the Nintendo GameCube controller adapter will work.
Yes! This controller is surviving 20-something years. It's so beautiful.
It is a work of art, and it deserves to live on forever. I've got so many tabs open here. I gotta fix this. Okay, so then here's the next thing: is we have. If you put a Nintendo Switch cartridge, certain Nintendo Switch cartridges will get an automatic upgrade of some kind when you put it into a Nintendo Switch 2. And it's not going to be the same for every system. Okay, Super Mario 3D World, Super Mario Odyssey, the toy-like Legend of Zelda games, that's Link's Awakening and Echoes of Wisdom, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, sorry. That's also, let's see, Wii U game. That's not a Wii U game.
That was a 3DS game, wasn't it?
Which
World?
ones? 3D Land was the 3DS game. And
okay, well, it's a remake of it, right?
No, it's a totally new game that happens to be the play on that. And man, rest in peace, King. 3D Land. That's a fun game. One of the best uses of 3D on the system, in my opinion, because you actually know where he's about to land. So a lot of these, you would think it's just screen share. But go ahead. Was somebody about to pop in there?
Oh no, I wasn't going to, but while I have the mic here, I just wanted to say, like, when you see all these games out here, I completely lost my train of thought. Continue panel. I got so enamored by, oh, beautiful Nintendo. Oh, now I remember what I was gonna say. New Super Mario Brothers U how are they going to upgrade that game? The game looked the same as it did on the Nintendo DS. Like, what more can they do in this free update?
I mean, they got two options. They got unlocking frame rates, which I think that's probably what it is. If the frame rate isn't locked, they will just automatically upgrade that. The other is, and I've got my list of free updates on my Twitter, my X. But if you look, there's a list of them that are not game share. Most of the updates are going to be game share, and that is the paid game chat feature. Sorry, no. Game share you can do from a Nintendo Switch 2. I'm sorry, I was getting my game chats and my game shares mixed up because, again, Nintendo doesn't do themselves any favors. These are the ones that are not are not game share. So I'm actually kind of surprised that Game Builder Garage isn't. And the more we'll talk about game share in a moment. But ARMS, The Legend of Zelda's, Game Builder Garage, New Super Mario Brothers U Deluxe, and Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. This could just be graphical updates, but they're saying they're getting add-ons, features, and things like that, unspecified, free, or well, it's a $450 system, so I don't know if the word free is quite correct. So they will be upgrading some things, but we don't know what. All right. So going from there, then we have the Nintendo Switch 2 editions to add another layer of what in the world is going on with this system on here. And there's only 8 of them, or maybe there's only 6. Let's look. Super Mario Party Jamboree, Nintendo Switch 2 edition, which is an existing game, Super Mario Party Jamboree, which is on the Nintendo Switch, and people have cartridges for this game. If you buy the Nintendo Switch 2 edition, there is a question about whether or not there is going to be a Nintendo Switch cartridge and an upgrade pack that could be a card for a download, or if there's going to be a completely different kind of cartridge that is a Nintendo Switch 2 cartridge that will have the additional software on it. I've read the text that's supposedly going to be on that box art, and it looks like it could be an upgrade code, or it could be on a physical cartridge. There's an account called Nintendo Prime that says that he reached out to My Nintendo, and they said, no, it'll all be on one cartridge. But based off of my conversations with Nintendo support about the GameCube controller, I'm waiting for clarity from Nintendo. So I don't know. And a lot of the functionality appears to be the use of the Joy-Con 2 mouse functionality, and also this one will have the camera. The camera's weird.
Mr. Jonas, where do I turn in my essay on how to buy a Switch 2 game?
I
don't know.
I would think it would be like an upgrade code. That would be the cheapest. That would be the cheapest thing to do, because the new cartridges are going to have more memory. It's going to have more room. They're obviously going to be more expensive. Just dump it on the old cartridge and then put in the upgrade code, and you run it off the Switch 2 internally, and just have the cartridge as your CD key to get into the game. That's what I would do anyway. I wouldn't put it on a new cartridge. I'd just throw in a little code and let them download it.
Right. And so we can all, and I'm not saying we're all going to disagree. I'm saying if the internet might disagree with this, but if you look at the rating pending all this text right here, it says includes the Nintendo Switch game and the Nintendo Switch 2 edition upgrade pack. Upgrade pack also available separately. For details, go to the website. And unless they've changed this website, which, by the way, that's this website right here, they're still not clarifying what it is. I also wonder if they're not locking themselves down to it will always be a cartridge. I also don't know if there will be more Nintendo Switch 2 editions other than the ones they've just announced. So this one has mouse games and also will be compatible with the camera. I'm just going to throw this in there about the cameras. You don't have to buy the Nintendo Switch 2 camera, which is, I don't know, $50-$60. But you can get other ones, but there's no compatibility list, and you have to plug it into a Nintendo Switch 2 in order to run the compatibility test. So there's no list of compatible cameras until someone else comes up with a list on this. So again, it's Nintendo being
Hey,
crazy weird.
I think you just plug in your PS4 or PS5 cam and you're good.
No, Culture. If you do
it's a
that,
good-
your console will erupt in flames. It's a failsafe.
Maybe
also,
you put
just
an old Connect on it. Maybe.
Yeah, just in case you're thinking you're going to plug that new USB-C on the top of your Nintendo Switch 2 to plug into the TV and run it like it's a Wii U. By the way, that top one cannot connect to the television, from what I'm hearing. Again, that could be different.
Hey, what if I plug my USB-C hub into it? How many devices can it run off of it?
That's actually a really great question.
Yeah.
Now,
because again, go ahead. USB-C is also not just data and video. It's which is also data. It's also got the ability to charge. So if you need an extra charger in a room, you got your switch and a hub. You're good to go.
Mm-hmm. So then we get to another layer on top of this. And by the way, I'm hearing from some people that these upgrade packs will be $10 to $20 for the upgrade. However, with the Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, which are getting graphical updates, and then a GPS app that comes with the game. It's a little bit more than GPS. These will be included free for people who have Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack.
I know the GPS Act is going to actually sync up with the game, but there's already like Zelda, map apps that you can get on your phone. I've used it while playing these games.
Yeah, me too. And they look graphically, they actually look like they're tied to the game because they're very well done. In this case, I mean, it is literally like you have arrived at your destination, or the Korok seed is up, and it is. It's kind of cheating, but it's kind of not. I mean, I've beaten these games several times over. Well, I actually have not gotten the chance to play Tears of the Kingdom because I've been busy working on YouTube stuff. But Breath of the Wild, this would be the third time going back to beat it for me. But there's a little bit of lore in there, and then you can trade QR codes and things like that to trade items between people on Breath of the Wild, which. If they do an Animal Crossing game and they have this kind of integration, just get ready for people like literally scalping items out of their Animal Crossing to sell on eBay using Nintendo's own methods. So again, I should say. With Tears of the Kingdom, you can trade build.
Will this at least come with a Nintendo Power Map so I can find my way around if I don't have a phone with me?
I don't. It's all in the app. I mean, other than the graphical upgrades, this doesn't change the game itself in any way. You get a second save file, updated graphics, and frame rate. That's all that actually happens if you're not going to integrate the app into it. It's super weird, but they're taking a Wii U game and selling it again, which more power to them if people buy it. Let's see. Kirby and the Forgotten Land is getting DLC. No word on whether or not that'll incorporate mouse functionality. And here's the weirdest one to me: just a frame rate improvement and a higher frame rate and resolution on Pokemon Legends ZA. That's it.
They know what people will pay for.
Yeah, because the Pokemon fans are nuts. So, yep. I have
been driven crazy. Can you blame them?
They've been buying the same game for like 30 years.
I love it. Marvin, yes, they've been buying this exact same game for years.
Twice!
Yes, thank you.
They've been buying the same game twice!
Somebody said it.
Yeah.
Oh, but the cartridge is a different color. Great. Awesome. It's the same game.
Yeah.
Red, are you team red or team yellow?
If
team green.
If it's a cartridge thing, yeah. Okay. So Metroid Prime Beyond, I think, is going to be the big one for the Nintendo Switch 2 edition because the graphics will be better. And I don't like mouse functionality on console games. I prefer to keep my PC Master Race separate from my console gaming. But okay, you can seamlessly switch between the mouse mode and the regular controller mode on Metroid Prime 4 Beyond. The graphics are a lot better. If you look 1-to-1, like it is a very different experience on the graphics between the Nintendo Switch and the Nintendo Switch 2. I'm very curious what happens if it is on a cartridge, the upgrade pack. What happens when you put a Nintendo Switch 2 edition cartridge of Metroid Prime 4 Beyond into a Nintendo Switch. And when parents ultimately get confused when they say, well, this Switch 2 game works on my Nintendo Switch, why doesn't this Switch game work on my Nintendo Switch 2 or 1?
Well, you had the packaging up earlier. Didn't it say that it was going to be bundled with both versions of the game? Am I wrong on that?
Yes, but if they're all on one cartridge and that Nintendo Switch 2 cartridge works on a Nintendo Switch 1, I think this creates even more confusion when you get a parent who's not paying attention taking a Nintendo Switch 2 cartridge and putting it in a Nintendo Switch 1. So does it look like a Nintendo Switch 1 cartridge, or does it look like a Nintendo Switch 2 cartridge? Which, if it's Metroid Prime, I would prefer it look like a Nintendo Switch 2 cartridge. But hey, Butter Biscuit, I'm sorry this took so long. Butter Biscuit 92 for $5. Roy was my boy, so I hated Brawl because he wasn't there. And he does not play the same in Ultimate. I don't like any other Smashes besides Melee and OG. I'm with you, man. I'm with you. King of Monsters 1954 for $199. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 American flags and salute. Best country in the world, man. Butter Biscuit 92 for $5 more. By the way, did you guys see that China created the next HDMI standard? Starts with a G. Can't remember the name. It was on Linus Tech Tips side channel the other day. I'm gonna have to check that out. Does it automatically come with sending your data to the mainland?
Oh, it certainly does.
They're sneaky like that. I'm gonna look into that. Thank you very much, Butter Biscuit. All right.
GPMI.
We do need an upgrade. I will say that. Then here is where it's going to get even crazier. There's a different kind of game that's being added to all of this. This is just on the cartridge side, and this is very controversial to me because I can see the good in it, but I can also see how this would be incredibly frustrating. Game key cards are a game cartridge that does not have the game on it. So we've gone from a download code, so you buy a box and all you have is the box, and it has a code for the game, to game key cards, which will give you some kind of a cartridge that unlocks downloaded content on it.
Why even have a box? Why have a cart? Why have any of that? It's like when ID Software came out with the Doom Anniversary set, and we're going to give you a BFG, but the game box has nothing in it. It has code. Everybody went nuts. Everybody revolted. Everyone said that is a giant waste of time. Why are you going to put a little card that has nothing that you have to download?
I blame you, Loki. I blame
Thank you so much, Culture.
You're welcome.
It's my fault. I don't know why, but I tricked Nintendo into selling boxes with nothing in them.
Yeah, I'll just say, in this generation, buying a box with a download code in it, the only time that I have ever done that is, 1, if it's exclusive, and 2, if somehow my box has been damaged and I need a replacement box, I might buy something that's a download code in a box in order to replace because I got kids, sometimes they step on things. It's very frustrating, so that I can replace the broken box. That'll be about the only time I'll tolerate a download code in a box.
We had a game place where we were talking about how great the Switch was. We were talking about how fun the games were, and we were talking about the fact that all you had to do is open up the little port, put the game in, close it, and you're good to go. You don't have to be hooked up to the internet. You don't have to be hooked up to anything. You don't have to download anything. You just put the card in and go.
And look, I'm on your team here because I'm just going to say, if you're worried about digital rights management, cartridges solve the problem for the most part. If you want to share a game and have a digital download with a friend, you just renew it every week with Nintendo, surface level baloney sausage garbage of subscriptions thing. You can. But I mean, otherwise, a cartridge is a permanent DRM. And that's one of the reasons why Nintendo should just stick with them.
It is. It's a DRM you own. So if you wanted to sell a digital game, you could with a game key card. That is about the only advantage that you have. But there are a lot of people that aren't worried about reselling their games. They want to have, especially with Nintendo, they want to have their game and have it forever. When the PlayStation servers went down, they made it apparent that even if you have a physical copy of something, if the PlayStation servers shut down, you can't even verify it in order to download it. So you can't even play a physical disc if PlayStation says you can't play that physical disc. So I'm sure somebody at some point is going to fix that for people. But if you look here, Bravely Default, which I believe that's a remaster, yeah, that is $40, and that is a game key card. But then where is it? Yeah, Street Fighter right here. That is also a game key card according to the current box art, and that's $60. So pricing does not seem to be determined by how much, whether it's a game key card or not. So interesting. Of course, we also have the pricing discussion on DK Bonanza being 70 versus Mario Kart World being 80 or maybe 90 depending on the region. Yes, it is 90 in certain regions, or more than 90 if you account for tax and translation, if you are crazy enough to buy a Spanish edition of that game. So I think the game key card one is going to be really confusing and disappointing for a lot of people. So I don't know of many people who are going to be excited that they have the option of reselling their digital games. Anybody? Anybody?
Yeah, no.
I've been very clear on this. I think you just need to own your games physically, and I hate digital stuff passionately.
Agreed.
The idea that you will own nothing and be happy is the same philosophy as this garbage. And again, Nintendo was one of the only game systems that would give you that, that actual physical copy of a game you could play forever. And that's the problem. What happens when they stop supporting this bologna sausage?
Exactly.
Yeah. Because they eventually do shut down their servers. The Wii U stuff is shut down now. So
I can't use the Wii. I mean, that's annoying.
Mm-hmm. Let's see. Kamchi for 199. I wish they added DLC to Zelda game for Switch too. They kind of did, but not really. I mean, they didn't add any new content, but they added in extra functionality, and that's about it. And if you want to trade designs on Tears of the Kingdom, you can do that. But you also have to know someone else who also has the expansion pass for that game. So one more thing I briefly want to cover is before we talk about game share is the micro SD express cards. This is a funny one, and this is probably going to be the most technical part of what we're talking about here, because we'll just talk about straight specs. The micro SD card that you have in your Switch right now most likely is a standard micro SD card. There may be all kinds of nomenclature on there because the websites that sell this have like it's a micro SD video, it's a micro SD Pokemon, it's a micro SD industrial. All of those things are basically micro SD cards, especially if it's above 1 terabyte, because micro SD Express, the new standard that Nintendo will be using, they literally just came out with a 1 terabyte. That is the largest you can get on the market right now. And the last time I checked, it was $200 for a 1 terabyte micro SD Express. The
that
micro
tracks.
yeah. So if you're just, and again, storage can be all over the place as far as pricing. So I'm going to throw out a number, and it may be inaccurate by the time I say it. Right now, it's 110 for 1 terabytes of regular micro SD. Different versions of that. I've seen some for 84 on sale that are currently sold out. Seen some for a little bit more. That's just a general figure I'm throwing out. 180 for a 2 terabyte, which is the maximum size that you can put into a Nintendo Switch right now. That's the maximum that the actual system will read. So sorry about that, Marvin. I didn't realize you were headed out. It reads at 100 megabytes a second and writes at 90 megabytes per second. That means nothing except for the fact that the micro SD Express reads at 6 times that amount and writes at 10 times that amount. I mean, it is a much faster chip, but the chip itself is not really that big of a difference. They're probably going to use it for storage of the games. I don't think this will affect much. It's going to be a lot more expensive. It will be considerably faster when you're moving your game storage back and forth between your card, but this one's not going to be a huge issue. But literally, let me bring up the article from Engadget here if it'll let me.
You're not going to pull all that 6 times speed either on your console, not when you're playing a game.
Right. It's not like the PlayStation, which uses an NVMe drive that is, and not even all NVMe drives. You have to get one that's fast enough to actually be PlayStation certified. That one will actually affect the load speeds of your game. Whereas this is for save files in game storage. It'll still have to be transferred over to the system memory before you can play it. And like literally, they just came up with the 1 terabyte one, even though the Nintendo Switch 2 is graded for up to 2 terabytes. So this is a small one. So don't expect your micro SD card to work in your Nintendo Switch 2. Should you get one, which a lot of the sentiment I'm hearing is people aren't going to get it. I'm going to get it though. So I don't know if there's anything anybody wants to comment there. Loki, you know more about this stuff than anybody else here. So
it's about speed and transfer rates and how fast it's going to move files when you're downloading. And I mean, I can't, maybe they did this because of hitching, but I highly doubt it because there's no, look, these games are going to be in 1080p. You might get a couple of them that might push beyond that when it's docked, but it's still going to be outputting, and it says it'll be outputting in 4K. I don't see it reading anything that quick. I mean, yeah, you've got like Cyberpunk. I brought that up earlier, Cyberpunk 2077. But even that, I can't see it reading those games that quick. So what is it going to be used for? Will it be more convenient? Might download faster, but maybe it'll prevent a little bit of hitching, but I don't see it being a huge game changer.
I don't.
I spent $100 on a little Legend of Zelda 1.5 terabyte for my first Switch. I should be able to pop that out, format it, put it in the Switch 2 and use it. They're not going to let you do that though. They want you to go to the more expensive option. And they
agree.
It's bizarre. Want you to use the best stuff in their console.
Well, I mean, it's all going to come down to throughput. I mean, read write is what we were talking about and touching on, and that's the truth. But the problem is there's many different throttle points that will that will just start to funnel information every time you hit one of those points. Every time you hit a challenge to throughput, that transfer rate isn't going to mean jack all. So, it's your console's only as fast as its slowest component. That's it.
Which is me.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I wouldn't really worry. I wouldn't really worry about transfer rates or any of that. But I understand really they just want a density, probably information density. And that's it. It's you're going to end up with these cards faulting at some point anyway, maybe 10, 15 years down the way. But
I've already had plenty of cards of the regular micro SD cards fault on me. It's very frustrating. I'll point that out too. Kamchi for $4.99. Well, functionality isn't enough and could updated Tears of the Kingdom with upgraded Master Sword, both attack and infinite durability, max out heart stamina and master mode. That would be awesome. I don't think they're changing the game in any way, the actual game play itself.
Yeah, and look, if everything becomes digital, it becomes easier to hack. This is the other problem that I don't like about this. I mean, DRM can always be thwarted, whereas cartridges, it takes so much extra effort, especially if it has a check with me, which the cartridges have a check with me on them. So it's just, man, I'm mad at Nintendo for leaning into this and not realizing it's not going to help anything. Anyway.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. I don't think that a lot of the problems that we have right now with the system, I don't think they're going to be played out over. I don't think we'll be talking about them in 5 years. Yeah. I think we're going to be. I think everyone is unfortunately going to get used to the price point pretty quick. I think inflation it's actually in line with inflation. I think that the tariff issue will figure out, that'll get figured out within the next few weeks.
It's going to be fast.
And
there were a lot of people quick to blame Orange Man bad for something
For
he had
nothing that
absolutely
was
nothing to do with.
relevant.
And
Yeah.
even Nintendo had to come out and be like, this has nothing to do with any of that. It's the price point we set. So
yeah. So we got one last thing to talk about before we go, and this one is more. I found out that that something is going to work different on the Nintendo Switch than I thought it would, and then we'll be headed over to the 6-minute daily. You'll be automatically redirected over there to that. Oh, we got hey, Packing Protons is in the chat for $5. I'm old and confused. Can you start from the beginning again? And there's a slider at the bottom. There's a slider at the bottom. Love you, man.
You can slow down the playback speed too, bro. So.
Yeah. All right. This is the last thing I want to talk about.
It's a game on.
This is going to be confusing to a lot of parents, especially if people don't just eat up the Nintendo Switch 2 as opposed to the Nintendo Switch. Here we have the new software called Game Share. By the way, Game Chat, that one, you have to have a Nintendo Switch 2 in order to do Game Chat, and you have to have a subscription to Nintendo Switch Online. It will currently be offered for free, but this is interesting. So this is not like Download Play, the Nintendo DS and 3DS software protocol that was there. They are literally streaming a copy of the game to the new system. So no download is required on this.
Oh, wow.
I was very surprised when I read that. And also, just going to note that even though it shows the same on both screens right here, I'm not sure that it'll be displaying the same information on both screens. So you have, from a Nintendo Switch 2, you can share games locally to a Nintendo Switch or a Nintendo Switch 2, obviously. You cannot share them online. Oh, wait, receive share games locally. Yeah, here we go. You can share games locally from a Nintendo Switch 2, and you can receive share games from a Nintendo Switch or a Nintendo Switch 2. Then Game Chat, you can do Game Chat only on the Nintendo Switch 2. So this is going to be what's weird and also interesting when all the parents have to gather in and do tech support for the very little ones. Of course, the 12-year-olds are going to be able to preach about it to the parents and tell the parents why they're getting it wrong. Game Chat currently available on the Nintendo Switch 2. It's asymmetrical gameplay, though. You're not streaming the same screen to all of these different switches. It can be different on the different switches. There's a breakdown of what everything can be. Clubhouse games, I appreciate that. Like, this is one of the lamest games out there, but Nintendo is really pushing it because it feeds to that older style of gameplay, like Mancala. They don't call it Othello, but Othello, or Yacht Dice, which is Yahtzee, things like that. So in breaking this all down, you're literally streaming the game to other systems. Only the Nintendo Switch 2 can share. You can game share to a original Switch locally, including Nintendo Switch 2 editions. You can game share and stream with Game Chat, but Game Chat is only for the Nintendo Switch 2 paid feature. It is a button. You have to buy a Nintendo camera in order to share, but you can have up to 12 people participating through voice chat. Only 4 people can participate via cameras. I don't know how much of that is going to be important to people, but you can also get a Piranha Plant camera from Hori, which is officially licensed from Nintendo. Throwing that in there for fun.
Can I get a bomb that like circles me as I play my game? No. Okay.
I'm realizing now that my audio is cut out, so I can't hear anything that you guys are saying.
Oh no.
Uh-oh.
Be right back.
Well, in regards to why he's fixing that, will we actually be able to find 12 people that bought the 51 game pack game thing?
I don't know. I mean, some of those games are appealing to me. If they have like Go on there, or
the game of Go, Culture Knows Go, nice.
Yeah, or something similar. I mean, I'm all about it, but you know, I think I would play chess with some people or checkers or whatever. You know, the Parcheesi. I mean, if it has those kinds of games available, I imagine there's going to be word search games and things like that. I mean, again, I'm not going to down on any of the ideas that are behind that. I like traditional board games and things like that, so those would be appealing to me.
Yeah, I'm sorry about that, and I don't know how much of that actually came through.
Yeah, all of it. You were good till you left. Yep.
So I think game chat is going to be one of those things that if it works and somebody knows how to use it, it'll be great. It's kind of Nintendo's attempt to bring back couch co-op, which I appreciate the idea of. I don't like that it's a paid feature, but also it's going to, I think from a server standpoint, they need to have it paid for. So.
Well, I mean, it could be localized on all of the machines at the same time. I don't understand why you would need a server. You know, authentication, user control, all of that could be handled from the consoles themselves. I wouldn't understand why you would need a third party location, but that's fine.
If you're doing it over the internet, I think there's one more thing I forgot to add in with game chat. If you're under 16, a parent has to approve it every single time.
That's good. That's good. And I like that. On that note, I'm going to excuse myself and see you at my show. Thanks for having me, gentlemen. And thanks for being here early in the morning, everybody, for That Game Plays. Thank you.
Go watch the 6 Minute Daily. It's great.
That's coming up soon.
Get your daily on.
We're going to send everybody over there. By the way, Marvin the Movie Monster had to check out early. He just asked that we shout out his channel, which he has two of them, Tooneytown Wrestling and Tooneytown TV. And of course, Culture Casino is over there at Culture Casino. Nolan Thunder has a channel, and so does Loki. Loki is streaming on Fridays. What's your schedule on Fridays, Loki?
8 a.m. Central Standard Time. We do the weekend review with the Lady Arwen Avalon, the Aliens, Europium, and the Rooster Dave Bob. But we don't call him a rooster anymore. We call him something else I can't say on this show. And Friday night, we have the Late Show with me and Snowdub. It is a adult show. It is very end of the week. We're just hanging out in Valhalla, drinking a beer, and that's how we like to end our Friday nights. So
Nolan, what were you going to say?
Oh yeah, you're bringing up Marvin. I believe he's also on his Tooneytown TV channel. He has a Mass Effect live stream at 9 p.m. Eastern time tonight. So if y'all like games and want to hear about Mass Effect, you should probably check that out.
Fantastic Jonas's animation in that Mass Effect. Yeah. Mass Effect. It was fine for a while. It was fine. But Kamchi for $2 still Tears of the Kingdom felt it wasn't fully complete. Kirby got DLC. I'll take your word for it on Tears of the Kingdom for the moment. I think I'm getting a Nintendo Switch 2 as soon as I can get one, and I'm planning on doing a lot of Nintendo Switch 2 streaming here. So maybe I'll do the Tears of the Kingdom upgrade pack when I do that. I mean, I literally have it right here, and I still haven't played it yet because I put a lot of hours into that game and game engine with Breath of the Wild, so I still haven't gotten back to it. Butterbiscuit 92 for 10. The more I listen, the more predatory this seems. The average parent won't know any of this, so when they buy it, things won't work because they have to spend more money. A lot of upset people. Yeah, if I wasn't buying it for myself and if I didn't have faith in the games, I would. If PlayStation was pulling this garbage, I would say no. But I'm a Nintendo fanboy. I'm fully open about that.
The most annoying thing about all this, Jonas, is like we've been going through all the different steps, and it feels like almost like a work training video. The way Nintendo's been about this whole thing was trying to figure out how just enjoy the Switch 2. The longer this goes, the more I realize, dang it, I'm gonna buy one soon after Jonas buys one, and I'll have to stream the Mario Kart with him. And I'm a Nintendo word I can't say on YouTube. I'm so sorry.
I'd like to think I'm not a Nintendo shill, but I do have a lot of faith in this company as far as the games continue to be amazing 99 times out of 100, if not more. And they will release a game that is weird that only appeals to them, but it's not like they're trying to tell you, oh, you will be an ahistorical bisexual black samurai that definitely existed. They're not pulling that kind of garbage on you. I mean, every now and then they end their live stream with a, oh, by the way, you're going to be so excited. Tomodachi Life 2 is coming.
Jonas, am I on the right side of history for buying Tomodachi Life? What will the history books remember that as?
I don't know. I haven't played Tomodachi Life. By the time I got to the point where my kids were aware of this stuff, they were like, oh, but Miitopia looks better. Let's get Miitopia.
Is
The number of hours.
Wait. Sorry.
What's that?
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say it's bad. I'm gonna wait. I need more. I need more of a library. You have to have a reason to pull me in. I've got 2 handhelds already. I don't need a third. I need more of a library. You guys have got to entice me to buy. And right now it's like, well, we're gonna monetize this and we're gonna monetize that. And we're gonna monetize this, and better be ready to pay for the C button when you're gonna be paying extra for games. And I'm like, guys, you haven't. Mario Kart looks interesting because you're going to do a world thing, and I get that. You're still going to do the kart style and the races the way you used to, but still, you guys got to give me more. You have a huge library of Switch games. I need more. I need something to entice me to buy you. My Xbox Series X Cortana edition with stars all over it sits there and gets used as a 4K player. My PS5 is sitting there. It's not hooked up. I haven't hooked it up since I changed the configuration of the room a couple months ago. It's just sitting there. It's not plugged in. It's not hooked up. It just sits there. Why? Because anything that I bought for that I was like, man, I'm going to play Final Fantasy. I'm going to play God of War. I'm going to play this. I'm going to play that. I'm going to play Spider-Man. I've got on PC now because
Loki,
Sony...
I think you're thinking too narrow with it. The PS5 has a lot of things you can do with it. You can use it as a door stopper. You can use it as a paperweight. Like, there's a lot of options here.
So I'm just before I go and buy another system, they've got to give me a reason to. And so far, they have not given me a really good reason to get a Switch to.
Yeah, and I'm buying on the hope of those myself. I right now, Mario Kart World, it sounds like I would be playing that online or by myself, which, I've got nothing against playing Mario Kart World by myself. I can dominate on 200cc if I'm by myself. But if you get real players in there, the blue shells are coming. So
12 at once.
Or 24 at once in this one. There is next week on Thursday, there is a Mario Kart World Direct where we're going to find out whether or not this game is actually worth $80 to $90. So that one's going to be interesting. Oh yeah. I plan on. Let's plan on streaming it unless something happens. Got to say, if I was buying this for a kid, if I was deciding whether or not to buy this for a kid, it would probably be a no. But the fact that I want to play it and I've got the funds and I can write it off as a business expense, I'm probably going to go ahead and get it. That being said, anything you guys want to shout out before we end this thing and send everybody over to the 6-Minute Daily?
Watch Culture. He's great.
Watch Culture. He's great. I agree. And watch Loki. He's good. Although apparently he needs to wash his mouth out with soap sometimes when he does those late night adult streams.
Late night shows. I think Jonas popped in and I was like, oh no, it's Jonas. He's gonna hear all the adult bar talk we do. No, I'm just kidding. If Jonas was ever wanted to come on, I'd be like, hey dude, bro, here's the link. I've got a Nintendo upload. I've got a Nintendo video coming out later today talking about fun stuff and money hungry Nintendo and greed. You're gonna get to see an angry Mario that wants your money on the thumbnail. So please like, share, and subscribe. And these guys are great. Culture's great. Marvin's a monster. So check him out. Everybody on here is great. Such great people to work with.
Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody, for being here. And if you haven't done it yet, like the channel, subscribe. We are kind of rebuilding here, so appreciate you. And if you haven't done it yet, well, get your game on.